Okay, we're in the broadcast. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Good morning, I guess, the co-host. Aaron, welcome to the show. How are you going? It must be early where you are. How's your morning going so far?
So far, so good. I'm usually up around this time anyway, but my office is facing east, sorry. So the sun is just like right in my face.
Streaming in there.
Yeah, so I apologize for the glare if it comes up.
All right, it's looking good. And Alex, how's your morning going?
It's pretty solid. I decided to attempt to run for the first time in years yesterday, and now I physically can't move. But other than that, I'm doing great.
I feel that kind of aches and pains after trying to do some exercise. Love it. All right, let's kick off. So welcome everyone to the Keys to AWS Optimization, the show where we share stories, concepts, and solutions to help you unlock your cost optimization at AWS. My name is Stephanie Gooch, and with me is my co-host, Alex, and we have a special guest today, Aaron Edell, who is here to talk to us about CUDOS, which we will explain what that is and how you can use it and why it's really great and important for you to kind of learn more about today. As always, we want to hear from you, so please feel free to chuck questions, comments in the chat. Let us know what you're doing with your optimization, how things have been going, any recommendations you have for other people, and any questions you have for us or our guest. So I'm going to kick it straight over to Alex, and she's going to introduce our lovely guest.
Yes, thank you, Steph. So Aaron and I have been working together for the past year to help bring the Cost Intelligence Dashboard, which if you were with us on episode 2, Ali is the maker of the Cost Intelligence Dashboard, and Steph will make sure to put some of those links in the chat. But Aaron was helping us bring it to startup customers because on a day-to-day basis, Steph, Ali, and I work with really large customers. So Aaron has been a lifesaver helping us scale, and he is gracious enough to join us today. So Aaron, can you give us the 1-minute version of how the heck you ended up in the Amazon world?
Oh, I don't know that there is a 1-minute version, but I'll try. I started life actually doing producing content. So I was producing a show for PBS, and this is a very long time ago in the early 2000s. About theater in New York, and I had always been into film and video and tech, and then I got a job at a startup in New York City that was making robots, and the robots would take video cassette tapes out of like a carousel and put them into VCRs and play them, and then we would digitize it, and so it was this whole like workflow. There was stacks, next to the robots, and it was just like it was such a cool experience. And then that got acquired by a medium level like middleware tech company in broadcast called Front Porch Digital, which then got acquired by Oracle. And this is like 10 years worth of time that I'm compressing. And then I left Oracle to move to California and do the startup thing. And I started a startup that was all about abstracting data, metadata actually. And it was originally for broadcast like files and objects because they're so dense with data that they can be really hard to manage. And then I left that and did a startup for machine learning, where we were putting machine learning models into Docker containers and making it really easy for people to just spin up, state-of-the-art machine learning. Then we sold that to another AI company, and that's right about the time where AWS said, "Hey, how are you doing?"
Yeah, that classic intro. How are you doing? From AWS.
Yeah, exactly. And it was weird because I got hired for the person who hired me saw the kind of work I had done with abstracting data, basically taking a bunch of data and pulling out some value from it or making it easier to access. And that turned out to be kind of relevant to cost and usage data for AWS. So I even though I had never really worked in cloud financial management before, which has been a great learning experience, and Alex and Ali, you guys have been like mentors for me, teaching me this whole new world. The data part of it really kind of translated better than I even really expected it would, or could have thought it would.
Oh yeah, it's crazy how as long as you have like those core components, you can really become entrenched in this cloud financial management world. So I did some research on you before you joined. And so I knew a little bit of the film, and similar to me, so my degree is in animal science. Steph over here, though, she stuck with computer science the whole way through.
Well,
You
it
have
was it was maths. I'm going to caveat. So somewhat computer, still nerdy logic nonsense, I think, is the main area.
But your degree's in something different, like not anywhere near the computer science world too, right?
My degree? Yeah. I, I mean, I went to college originally or university, for film and video. I thought that's what I thought I wanted to do. And I got there and I had been making film up like through high school and before that. So when I got to college, the first class was, here's a camera and the button that you press to record. And I was like, okay, my parents are spending way too much money on this. I'm not, I need to challenge myself. And for some reason, and to this day, I still don't fully understand this choice. I thought, what's the most difficult thing I could do? That must have been like a moment in maturity for me, because I honestly, up until that point, I was just thinking the opposite. But I decided to go into pre-medical studies. And it's not totally random. My father is a physician and he had a radio show and talk show. So I kind of liked that idea. But so I went through the whole pre-medical thing. In fact, that's how I met my wife. She's a physician now. She's actually a physician. But I said nothing to do with computers, technology, development, data, nothing. I mean, I maybe took one or two courses, as part of the, prereqs or requirements. Actually, one of them, ironically, was on neural nets, which turned out to be useful like 15 years later. But I mean, Alex, did you know what your career was going to be when you went to college?
No, not at all. And Steph, getting to know Steph and Andy, our other team member that's in London, they have to know what they want to do way sooner than we do in the US. I would stress me out.
Yeah, we have to make that decision when we're like 14, and then that's it. You're set for life. That's it.
Are those your A levels? You have to kind of pick
them
time?
Yeah. You pick your GCSEs, and then if you don't do certain GCSEs, you go to A levels. And obviously you can change. I know people that have changed, but yeah, it helps if you make that decision early on.
Yeah, that's got to be tough. At 16, 14, I mean, what did I want to be at 14 was like probably like a Jedi or something.
I mean, Aaron, I think I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do with my life.
Right.
What I do know is I love numbers and I love visualizing those numbers. And I think that's the theme across our team for sure. Yeah. But the place that I really have very little experience in that you've taught me so much about is the startup world. So you came from the startup world. Now you work with a lot of our startups. When it comes to optimization, what kind of themes or like pain points are you seeing the most that they need help on?
It's interesting. I talk to a lot of startups. I also talk to a lot of not startups, and there is a difference. And I don't know exactly where you would draw the line, but there's startups and then there's startups. So I wouldn't call, for example, certain very, very large companies that are doing really well with spending a lot of money and with billions in revenue. I wouldn't necessarily consider them a startup, even though they might technically be. But I think what the kind of questions so let me back up and say that when I was at startups, we always had what I would call AWS Bill Day. It's happened twice, two different startups. This was a day where you get your first AWS bill that you weren't expecting. And it's usually after you've been like trying some new things and testing some stuff, and you've got engineers who are spinning up instances, and everybody's like really excited, and you're growing, and you're getting into some new stuff, and then you kind of forget, right? Like, I need to keep an eye on this. And so what happens after AWS Bill Day at a startup usually is a kind of big company-wide sit down and go, okay, let's take it easy. Let's figure out what's going on, and make sure that we're responsible, and make sure that we have people thinking about the cost and not just doing awesome things, which is I know it can sometimes be not as fun to think about, but is really important. So startups ask a lot of questions about how do I think about this, right? What questions do I ask? And that's my favorite. I love it when customers say that. Like, I don't even know what to ask. And I say, I got you covered. And that's where I think Ali's cost intelligence dashboard really shines, because if you don't know how to goal yourself as an organization, and Alex, I learned this from you actually from a presentation you did about some of the KPIs and metrics. And I love to tell customers, one of my favorite lines is, I know it sounds self-serving, but you can't goal yourself against just having a lower bill. That's not going to work, right? And so, so thinking about, what KPIs and metrics you should goal yourself on, percentage of on-demand spend, percent CPU max utilization, these kinds of things that the dashboard just sorts out. It just sorts it out for you. And so if you don't know to ask those questions, you can sort of skip a step. And I think that's really important for startups, because they're moving fast and you want to kind of avoid, my goal is to try to get them before they have that day, that AWS day.
That sounds really good. I mean, I can imagine people are loving the idea of them stopping them spending money before they need to. And definitely, I'll share it again on here. This is the link to the dashboard that Aaron mentioned. And if just for those who may have joined us kind of part way through, we're chatting to Aaron and we're talking a bit now about visibility, but I'm going to throw this in there now because we've just covered the cost intelligence dashboard. So I've heard of CUDOS and I've heard of the CUDOS dashboard, but I'm not going to pretend that I know much about it. Can you tell us a bit about it, what it is, and what's the difference between that and the cost intelligence dashboard? Would be great.
Yeah, it's an awesome question. So the cost intelligence dashboard, when Ali kind of when it was invented or released, or how in the well-architected labs, it caught like wildfire. And and I think it caught like wildfire not just externally but also internally. And when we have engagements with customers, we like to also be knowledgeable about their spend and help them, sometimes even proactively think about certain things. Mm-hmm. The dashboards turned out to be really useful for that. So, so a group of TAMs, technical account managers said, hey, this is something that's really, really going to help our customers a lot. Let's kind of think about what are the common sorts of questions they ask beyond the cost intelligence dashboard. So deep service level questions, per hour Lambda costs, these kinds of things. And the CUDOS dashboard was born. Now it's I don't know the right metaphor, but it's like the daughter of the CID. It's sort of come from it. So it's definitely an extension of it. Now, what's really interesting is that we've worked hard together to sort of figure out, all right, how do we consider this as a whole? And so the CUDOS framework is what's kind of born of that. And the framework essentially is, how do I access this data, right? Because when customers start using the cost and usage report, which is the very detailed big data file, right?
Yep.
And it drops into their S3 bucket. And I don't know, maybe they try to open it with Excel. I think like you see that.
Yep, I remember doing that.
Yeah, exactly. That reaction you just had is really important, because if you wanted to ask that data a question like, what's my average hourly cost per compute? You got to know a lot about what's in that file, right? And so what I like about the framework is that it's a set of queries, in Athena, or really SQL queries that you can put anywhere, that sort of layers on top of it. And this is exactly what we were trying to do at the startup. It's an abstraction layer on the data, and it makes it useful. It makes it accessible. It makes it valuable to anybody, even people who don't know SQL, people who don't know, some of the deeper tech that you might need to know. And so the CID sits right on top of that. The CUDOS dashboard sits on top of the same data set. So they are if you have one, you can have the other. Now, the difference is the CUDOS dashboard is a much larger, deeper into detail, very service level dashboard. It's not for everyone. I think ideally customers should have both. I think the CID the cost intelligence dashboard is a really good tool for heads of finance and cloud ops and FinOps, and maybe people who aren't as technical but really need good high level metrics. They need to keep track of how their savings, how their reserved instances and savings plans are impacting their business. And then the people who are doing DevOps and the IT managers need the CUDOS dashboard to get at the very granular level. So I think that they both should exist at the same time in all customers, really, because I think they kind of serve different personas. It's a long-winded answer, but hopefully it clarifies.
No, it's good. Yeah, definitely. Because coming from someone, I used to be a DevOps engineer, so I feel like CUDOS wasn't around when I was doing that. So I feel like that must be the next level, and I'm definitely going to push that towards. At the moment, I speak to both finance and developers. So it'll be good to kind of push that towards those guys. I mean, unless Alex, do you have something you want to say?
Yeah. So at this point, I think in my head, I know what you're going to say, but in a perfect world, where do you see the next steps for things like CUDOS and the Cost Intelligence Dashboard? Where would you take it?
Good question.
Loaded answer.
It's a very loaded answer. I am obsessed with reducing friction for customers for accessing data. I don't know why. I didn't go to school for this, as we talked about. It's a thing that I just really strongly believe in. I think the ideal world, I would love to see, this sort of suite or this layer, this abstraction, be a one-click like service from the console. You just click a button, and bam, there's all of your insights. There's all of your data. You don't have to, the workshop and the well-architected lab are great. And they teach you this. I'm wary of losing this, but they teach you a lot too. Like I'd never heard of Glue or Athena before doing the well-architected lab. And did I learn a lot going through setting it up manually, a lot. And I think it's not for every customer that either they don't have time or, they just already know all this stuff, so they don't need to do it. So yeah, a one-click like service of a version of this, reporting, giving it to you every day, in your email, alerting you. And it does a lot of this already, but I think that customers, I think it's the deployment step that, if it just was like you start your AWS account for the first time and, it's like any of the other service, you just click and there's your insights. What about you, Alex? I'm you think of that future?
And I want to know what Steph too, especially because Steph comes at it with a DevOps mentality, and I don't see my brain doesn't work like that. But I would want more CloudWatch, click of a button, bring it right in. Having those usage metrics and joining them automatically to the cost data. So taking we do it through Athena on our side, but taking those instance IDs and mirroring them with all of the information that comes in the CUR, and also the tag accessibility. I don't know what the right answer is, but there's got to be a way to decipher and really use even like machine learning to find trends and tags and be able to dig into it and proactively keep up with it.
Yeah.
Steph, what about you? You've had time to prepare your answer.
I'm just going to say what you guys have said. So I agree with, they both are perfect things. So the deployment thing is one of the things that used to drive me nuts about the well-architected stuff, was that I come from a place where manual is like a bad word, it's a dirty word. We don't do things manually. And so anytime I did a lab, I would then have to go and put it into Terraform or CloudFormation, which was just always annoying. So fun update coming from, we mentioned this in the well-architected session, we are creating Terraform and CloudFormation versions of things so that people can just deploy it, because maybe you're already at like a 300 level, you already know about Glue, you don't really have time for it, and you haven't got dedicated resources in a FinOps team. You're just a developer who needs to get their boss information about how much they're spending in Amazon. You can just deploy that and it fits in with the rest of your infrastructure. So that's definitely, I love that concept. But also CloudWatch, I have a real memory of going to reInvent. I'm wearing my replay shirt. I just realized this isn't because I'm wearing it, but talking to the CloudWatch team at a round table and being really confused that they just didn't put it into the CUR, why these things, or why you couldn't get it from the CUR. And I think so being able to marry those things up would be amazing. Definitely.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
Yeah.
Pulling in third party. This was another big part of what I was trying to do at some of these startups, and I tried to coin a term called metadata triangulation. Basically, pulling in two bits of data or information from two different places, and having the sum be more valuable than the parts of that data. So if you're pulling in data from CloudWatch and you're pulling in data from the CUR, and maybe you're also pulling in data from Twitter or Twitch, something that would be relevant to your business, like your number of subscribers or some other data set that you've got that maybe is internal to your business, and getting something valuable from that data that's better than the sum of its parts. I think, and you can do it. It's just there's some manual steps, and it's fun, and you learn how to use Lambda, and you learn how to write to APIs. But I think it would be really cool to see that growing and deployment, and maybe even have a marketplace of these kinds of things. But
yeah, definitely. And then we've had a comment. I'm just going to flag. It's quite a long one, but the kind of gist is that it'd be great to have different accounts and seeing how much you're spending. And I think we kind of touched on this on the unit cost session we did, where you can calculate those kind of things, which I think is that kind of information in CUDOS or in the well-architected dashboard?
Yeah, definitely. I'm just reading if we're spending 4 times the amount of EC2 on environment R&D compared to production, then we know something is likely going wrong. Yes, I mean, you can do per account. Visualization is a very common part of actually almost all the visuals in both dashboards. They naturally slice and dice by that. It would be really easy, I think, to spot something that was out of whack, like your R&D is suddenly spiking. That would surface right away. I think right out of the box, I don't think you'd have to change or do any customization, and you would have that.
You know what would be cool? I was just thinking this as you guys were explaining yours, is almost like having that open forum, like a Pinterest for cost intelligence. Like, hey, I manipulated the board to do A, B, and C. Like, click to see how I did that, and being able to like push up comments and stuff like that. It's our nerdy version of social media in the class. But it'd be cool to just see what other people are doing. I mean, Aaron, I think some of the things that you have told us that customers you work with use it for are completely different than some of the things that Steph's customers use it for. And it's interesting if they could play off of each other in that way, it could grow so much.
I love that idea. It would be really cool to have like a marketplace of these concepts, and then like little droplets or widgets that you could just click and add to your dashboard. How cool would that be?
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Idea. Let's go to Jeff and let's tell him this is what we want to make.
Hello, Jeff.
Hello, Jeff.
Yeah. Sorry.
We'll get his number, obviously.
He doesn't like it when people call him. I shouldn't have done that. Sorry.
Oh God. So we've got a quick question. So can we pretty please get tags into the billing dashboard sooner than a month from when they are set? So I'm assuming this is referring to cost allocation tags. They take a month to come in. Is that right, guys?
That would be news to me. I mean, maybe this person might be talking about Cost Explorer. I know in the Cost Intelligence dashboard, the tags are as soon as the CUR itself updates, I think like 3 times every 24 hours or something like that. So as soon as the CUR updates, the tags are there. That they might be, sometimes some of the data and the visualizations don't aggregate till the end of the month. So, in some cases, it doesn't make sense to look at data or from the CUR this month. Like, for example, S3. So if you're looking at S3 data, just the way it is, if you're looking at, your total S3 gigabytes stored, it's not complete until the end of the month for some reason. So it's just the way that the data is. But I'm not exactly sure. And they clarified by saying tags on resources. I don't know that they take more than a month to get there. Maybe I'm out of my depth here, but at least in the CUR, they don't. I know it's pretty immediate.
Feel free to tweet us and we could discuss outside of that user. Feel free to tweet Aaron directly with that question if you'd like.
I'll look it up.
But yeah, and one thing I'm going to flag, mainly because it's mine and it's interesting. So we just published a new blog post about tagging, where you can tag your organization. Everyone, so you're aware, in your organization level, you can tag accounts with metadata. And so we've set up this new blog post which shows how businesses are using that to do their cost allocation. So they're looking at the model that everything in an account is tagged. Everything in an account is owned by that account. So you might tag it with things like environment, cost center, owner, things like that. And then what you can do is linked in there is the lab where you can pull in that data to the CUR. So that can happen immediately. So that's just kind of another set of metadata. So I recommend checking that out, guys. So we've got just over 5 minutes left. So we're just chatting about, for those coming in, we're just chatting about cost visibility, a bit about CUDOS. So Aaron, is there any kind of really good customer stories that you would like to share that you think are really good with CUDOS?
Yeah. Oh man. There are many. I'll have to pick some from the top of my head, but I do remember. So in the cost intelligence dashboard, and I think in the CUDOS dashboard too, there is a visual that shows you your per bucket cost. And I was so occasionally we get a chance to demo the dashboard on customers' data if they let us, which is really good because then we can show them the dashboard with their data and they get to see some of these insights for real. And so that's always my favorite thing because when I was showing a demoing a customer, they took one look at the buckets graph, and I heard the boss say to somebody who was working for him, what is this? What is this bucket? Like, do we need to put it on here? And they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know, I forgot. And it was just like it was a quick. They don't even have the dashboard yet, and they're already getting value from it.
Wow.
I have a lot of little anecdotes like that. I mean, there's a lot of there's big stuff, but there's also little quick wins that are, just really powerful, like updating your current instances to current generation instances. You might sort of lose track of, what generation instances you've got, and the dashboard makes it really clear.
Oh, wow. But there's still that kind of knee-jerk reaction of seeing. I remember a TAM demoing something similar where they showed us these buckets, and our director being like, what is this? Like, do we need this data? And everyone was like, I don't know, I've never heard of it. And it was probably just a bucket in Sandbox that had been there since the cloud team had been started at the business, and this money just consistently growing.
Yeah.
Alex, have you had any good experiences with CUDOS or well architected? Do you want to share?
A lot of similar, oh my gosh, moments that Aaron was just talking about. But I think when it comes to EC2, getting that visibility and the shift in seeing it as an efficiency metric versus what your overall spend is has been really helpful. So I had a customer who was about to start a migration, but was still hesitant, didn't know what benchmarks to set. And they used the cost intelligence dashboard to see as they migrated this application, if it was as efficient as their other applications. And that way they could catch overspending at the forefront, which I thought was a really cool way to look at it. But in general, I always love how excited people get with how easy it is. I think you tell people here's a lab or a workshop to do this, and they're thinking, I don't have the skill set to do this. And I mean, Aaron, what's the fastest you've done the cost intelligence dashboard? I think Allie's got it under 20 minutes now.
Yeah, I was going to say 24 minutes. I recorded it, but she's faster. Well, now the workshop has an automation script, and it's even faster now. But I have a question. Why is this guy throwing all this money around? What is he doing?
That's Michael Biddle. He is on paternity leave right now, so he will be joining us when he gets back. But he's the savings guru. So yeah, we always put him with that cash money.
That's what we look like all the time. I just walk around just making it rain.
Right.
With all the savings. I mean, I wish I did. I remember when I saved a lot of money at KPMG before, and everyone was like, do you get the money that you save? And I was like, I wish I got the money I saved. But no, it doesn't work like that.
But it makes a great argument for if you want to raise.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Fun tip. If you want to get a raise, calculate all the savings that your movements have done. And there you go.
Use the dashboard to do it. The data's all there.
Yeah.
It's easy access.
You literally could do that. There is literally a visual that says, this is how much you saved with the reserved instances and savings plans. Show it to whomever you had to convince to get the savings plans in our eyes, show it to them.
Yeah. And please tell us. I am so interested in if somebody goes away today, deploy the CUDOS. We know it doesn't take long. Show that to finance and then get a pay raise or just shock them. Be very keen to hear that next week. All right, we've got just a couple of minutes left. So, Aaron, is there anything you want to say that you haven't had a chance to say? Anything you want to share before we finish up?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, Alex and Steph, the optics team, the team that you guys are on have been just so inspirational for everything that I do. You have to understand that when I joined, I genuinely knew nothing about cloud financial management. I would talk to Allie and she would say, yeah, well, the amortized costs. And I was like, Googling what are amortized? And I kind of knew what it is, but I really needed I needed a lesson. And really the learning has been so great, but honestly, the customers teach you a lot too. And, my advice to anybody just at any business is just talk to your customers, just talk to them, as many as you can. And, they'll tell you, what they learned and what they're going through. So, but yes, it's been really awesome to just learn about all of this and just help customers visualize, big data. Really, this is what it is. It's a big data problem. So
I'm going to finish by chucking up this from Rob. Optics rules. I'm glad you feel that way. Right, we got to go. Thanks guys for joining. Next week we'll be having a chat about the curse, so please join us then, and we'll see you all next time. Bye guys.